This is Mrs. G. I'm going to give you a very quick little tutorial about how to draw a set of parallel lines and then also how to cut those parallel lines with a transversal here in GeoGebra. So the tool that you want is here. Okay, it's the second one. It's parallel line. And something to know about GeoGebra is what they're trying to tell you in some of these constructions is that the piece that's in red on this little icon that's actually next to the heading, the piece that's in red is what they'll draw for you, and the other pieces that might be in blue or in black are what you need to draw before making, for example, in this situation, a parallel line. So you have to give it a line and a point first, and then it can make a parallel line from that information. So what we want to do before we start with our parallel lines, start with just a regular line. Okay, draw a line somewhere else on your screen. Sorry, make a point. And then, once you've done those two things, you can make a parallel line because you're telling GeoGebra that you want something that's parallel to the line you already drew and goes through this point. Okay, so that's kind of the basic information. You have to click those two things. You could do it in the opposite order. You could click the line and then the point. And if you do it that way, again, what's neat here is that you can kind of move things around and it will maintain the fact that your two lines are parallel. Can kind of slide things around like this, and you will, keep that aspect of two parallel lines. Now, if you want to cut those two parallel lines with a transversal, just go back to your line tool and make another line. Now you could make it like here and here, something to that effect. Now I already have 3 points on these parallel lines that I have, so I try and kind of keep things simple and not make anything more convoluted, and I might just kind of use the 2 points I already have. So through there and through there. And so now you've made what's called a transversal, cutting these two parallel lines. And again, they should, if you move things around, they should maintain the fact that the two lines are parallel and being cut by the transversal. The interesting aspect of this situation is what happens to the angles. Okay, so I want you guys to measure these angles. In order to measure the angles, the angle tool, remember, needs 3 points. So you may need to add just a few points to some of your lines here on your screen, just so that you have the basic information in order to measure the angle size of all of these angles. There's actually 8 of them. So what I want you guys to do, remember, go in counterclockwise direction to measure the angles. Click, 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 and you've just measured that angle piece right there. Okay, counterclockwise, let's try this one, then this one, then this one. Oops, I did it in the wrong direction, and that's going to happen. I've been using this program for a long time, and I still make that mistake. And it's not a big deal, just undo. Go back again. Okay, and hopefully as you start measuring these angles, you see something interesting. Oh, those are exactly the same. Okay, we should know that from previous information as far as what are called vertical angles. Okay, these two angles are across from each other. But something interesting also happens, counterclockwise direction, down here in your other group of parallel lines. Counterclockwise, like this. Okay, so that's half of your angles. What I'd also like you to do is go through and measure the other 4. So counterclockwise is going to be here. Okay, that's interesting. 33. Clearly these aren't the same, but as you go through and measure them, you might come up with some interesting observations. I think that's all I really need to tell you at the moment. Continue measuring your angles, and maybe you might see something interesting in these 8 angles. There are 4 here in this kind of location. There are 4 here and there, and you should come up with something interesting that you see when relating the measures of those 8 angles. All right, we're all done.